So elite movement management with TPM Elite. Looking at movement health for the athlete, the importance of N=1, and how we deliver bespoke movement management. Looking at these key themes then, the complexity of movement and its management for performance, considering muscle synergies and their muscle classifications, and looking at how we can use these tools to assess and then address the loss of movement health within athletes. So we're going to start with the athlete, this idea of N=1. Everything that covers the athlete is now regarded as part of that circle. Their physical and psychological qualities that either benefit or hinder the achievement of a skill at any given moment. Typically then we'll identify what may benefit or hinder their performance, and we may then perform some training interventions to either enhance or maintain those desirables to bring about sustained, robust performance. But what we see is it's very different for every different athlete. Therefore, there's huge amounts of complexity in this. So how do we, with TPM Elite, try to simplify this? Well, this model on the left represents this dynamical systems approach. For any given task, for any given individual, for any given environment, there is an interaction of everything that makes up that performance or task, everything that makes up that environment, and everything that goes up to make that individual. And these things interact to bring about performance at any given time. So what we see is, because our focus on managing movement, what comes about from those interactions are individual movement solutions. For any given individual, they'll find their own way of achieving the outcomes of the task. What we do is we assess and modify those movement solutions. So we consider the outcome. We look at how people move and we address that movement because we believe they're both accessible and modifiable. So what actually gives individuals the capacity to find these different movement solutions within that interaction? So we look at breathing as an example. So respiration is quite nice because it allows us to consider this term redundancy. The fact that you have many different ways to achieve your breathing outcome. You can continue to breathe under all kinds of demands. Along the way, we start to use up our breathing strategies as we move from quiet breathing, forced breathing, finally accessory breathing. We're using every breathing strategy we can due to the demand of the task. And because we've got redundancy in the system, it means we've got more ways than one to sustain our task outcome. If we start doing the same thing with the movement system, motor redundancy, the ability of many muscles to perform the same tasks, gives us capacity. That capacity gives us many different movement solutions, many different ways to get to the same place. But over time, due to the presence of fatigue or pain, we may start to lose solutions. So for the individual, what supports those movement solutions? What allows them to form so many different solutions over time that even if they lose some initially, it's okay because it's only a small percentage of what they possess. Motor redundancy then gives capacity. But motor redundancy, by supplying capacity, also allows us to form muscle synergies. Many muscles that can perform the same role. And we believe with TPM Elite, we can assess and modify those muscle synergies that people use during the performance of a movement task. So a little bit on synergies here. Muscles that come together to form a synergy. Monoarticular muscles, multi-articular muscles that are momentarily compressed into a synergy, sharing eccentric, isometric, concentric roles. This gives us capacity to solve movement problems, where a mix of different synergists forming a synergy supply a solution at a given moment, combating these different factors. And over time, compared to now, we may use a different mix of synergists later. So we may get more from synergist A and less from synergist B. So in a way, the body starts to play a form of synergistic algebra. It always balances the movement equation, but with different synergists. So motor redundancy then gives us this capacity to form muscle synergies. But which mix of synergists are used at any given moment? And which synergies are lost along the way? How can we decide whether the synergies we're using are efficient in respect to time? Well, the muscle classification system, developed by Comera and published in 2012, took a multifactorial approach to looking at any given synergist's primary role. So based on these 4 categories, we can decide on what that muscle is best set up to do. We can take then any given muscle synergy, place it in that model of those 4 dimensions, so 3 dimensions and that change in response to time, which is response to pain and pathology, and we can start to classify muscles into different roles, what they're primarily set up to do. We can then employ this model in some form of synergistic discrimination. So during walking, running or sprinting, we will need to manage the demands of pronation. So eccentrically or isometrically controlling pronation. These different muscles have the ability to do this. And based on the classification system, we can then decide whether the strategy we see at any given moment matches how these muscles are best set up to perform that task. So what we see is then we can pick any synergy apart, decide on the efficiency of that synergy based on each synergist's most optimal role at any given moment. And we can see how over time, with increasing load or speed, the contributions of those different structures will change. The muscle on the right will start to contribute more as load or speed increases. Also, as fatigue is more present, there will be greater demands on the system. Again, more contribution from the muscle on the right. So this classification system then, based on those different qualities, allows us to start to judge synergy in respect to time. How efficient is the synergy we use now and later and later? And as synergies are starting to be used up, as movement solutions are starting to be used up. So this is how we test. This is how we identify the efficiency of synergies. During the performance matrix testing, we ask individuals to achieve a certain benchmark, the what of the task. They must achieve the outcome. There is low variability in the task outcome. Consistently, they must achieve the benchmark. What we're really interested in is the how. How do they get about achieving that benchmark? We look at different sites. In this test, a number of different regions. Also, we consider whether they have variability in the strategy they use. So during testing, we want to see whether they can employ a range of strategies to get to that task outcome. Even though there's low variability in the task outcome, they must get to the benchmark. We want to see if they have different strategies of getting there. What we also gain from this testing is which mix of synergists are they employing in the given synergies we are testing. This is revealed through the tool of site direction and threshold, which, for example, identifies that at the hip into hip flexion, this individual consistently cannot prevent a movement happening. And this is then profiled at either a high or low threshold of muscle recruitment. So how sensitive is this particular structure we're testing? If there are deficits in their low threshold sensitivity, this will be revealed during low threshold testing. If there are issues under high threshold, speed or load, this will also be revealed. So these are different types of tests, revealing different things, but still profiled in the same way, revealing the site at which they occur, the direction in which they also occur, and on which type of loading. This allows us to infer on which synergies are being used and the relative contribution of the different synergies within that synergy. We also look at testing choice, and this is how it relates to what we've already discovered. Now, choice, we believe, relates to movement health. Movement health is this definition, not only injury-free, but the athlete also possesses choice in how they achieve their movement outcomes. They have possess choice in movement and possess sustained, robust movement and performance solutions over time. Returning to how we test, we still want to know about the benchmark. We're still inquiring in terms of the low variability and coordinated strategies. Which strategies do they consistently use? Do they always use the same strategy, yes or no? But we dig into that a little bit deeper by using cognitive testing. We ask the question, can you prevent a movement happening? And if consistently, once given the opportunity to use a different strategy, the individual cannot use a different strategy, we see low variability in the pattern they use, inferring that certain synergists are consistently employed and other synergists are not. So elite movement management for your team. There's the TPM Elite system, using the assessment and management of muscle synergies. Once we've found the issues in the muscle synergies, we can then employ retraining strategies to fix these issues, giving the athlete more choice over time.